podcast. Welcome to REVOLVE U's Don't Stop Believing Career Journey panel. Today, I'm excited to be speaking with some of the industry's best on this panel. Well, we'll be reflecting on the path that led to their successes, including hard lessons, defining moments, priceless advice, and learning to be your own inspiration. Please welcome Rachel Lindsay, Nastia Liukin, Chris Appleton, and Michael Carby. I would love for everyone to go around and just introduce yourself. Chris, we'll start with you.
Hey guys, it's Chris Appleton. For those of you who don't know, I'm a hairstylist, living in Hollywood, and I guess working with some of the A-list girls.
And Rachel?
Hi guys, I'm Rachel Lindsay. I'm an attorney and media personality with Extra TV. I'm a correspondent. I host a show on MTV called Ghosted, Love Gone Missing. And I have two podcasts. One is Bachelor Happy Hour, and the other is called Higher Learning with Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay.
And Michael, how about yourself?
I'm Michael Carby. I'm situated in New York, working for Givaudan Fragrance Corporation, and I'm working with Drake and his new launch of the Better World Fragrance House. It's going to be coming out with candles very shortly to the market, and we're really excited about that.
And finally, Nastia.
I'm Nastia Liukin, and I'm a 5-time Olympic medalist. So my past life, I was a gymnast. This new chapter and transition of my life, being an entrepreneur, launching a company called the Muse Collective, which is a platform to inspire the next generation of women.
And speaking of that, Muse, you're about to launch the Muse Collective. One of the big things is that a lot of women feel like they have an idea of doing something, or they want to do something, and they have like a self-doubt or something holding them back. Why do you think women stop themselves from going after their dreams, whether it be going and achieving an Olympic gold medal, or starting a new business, or starting a side hustle?
Well, that's, I guess, the question I'm trying to figure out, because I do think that sometimes we tend to do that. And I think that for me, it's always been super important to have a great mentor in my life. And growing up, both my parents were Olympic gymnasts as well. So I had really great mentors right in front of me. And even within like the business side, I guess, of my life, just having such great mentors and inspiration. So that's kind of what I hope to try to do for this next generation, and even the current generation. I think with all of us, I think the more that we can all stick together and support one another, as opposed to competing against each other. I did that for 22 years of my life. And so I had to be competitive on the Olympic level. And I think that now just trying to be so much more supportive of each other, and trying to build each other up instead of constantly comparing ourselves to one another, and actually be happy for each other's success instead of thinking, why did she get to do this, or that's not fair, or whatever. Just being proud and happy for that person, and then continuing to try to achieve your own dreams and goals as well.
Did you feel, after you retired from the Olympics, was there a shift that you had to do for yourself? Be like, okay, I'm not on the gym floor. There's not all this pressure. Did you have to kind of unlearn that thought process?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was in a leotard in front of millions and millions of people at the Olympics. I was constantly being judged for every single thing, not just my gymnastics, but appearances, the way that you walk, the way that you salute, how your hair is done, like literally every single thing at the Olympics. And so it was a strange transition of now trying to understand that that's not necessarily normal, and I don't have to do that, and people don't have to do that. So I think it was the hardest transition, I think, from training 7 hours a day, 6 days a week for over 20 years of my life. And then just, trying to figure out what my next goals and my next passions were.
Well, I'm excited. When does the Muse Collective officially launch?
Well, we were hoping basically it'd already be launched with an in-person event, but obviously given the times that we're living in. So TBD. We are now figuring out, obviously, this whole virtual thing, and it's a little rebrand of a company I had before that actually Rachel got to be part of. We had this huge summit almost 2 years ago now, and it was just so inspiring seeing so many women come together and support each other, and being from all different walks of life and having different backgrounds, and whether it's being a lawyer, an athlete, an entrepreneur, a founder, I feel like we all learned from one another. And it was so cool to be able to, I felt inspired just like being with the panelists. And then, I think we inspired the over 500 people in the room. So yeah, fingers crossed, by the end of this year, we'll have our little relaunch.
It was amazing.
Thank you.
It was an amazing event.
Well, Rachel, your resume, you listed off so many things, but you're an attorney, originally went to law school. Now you're a huge media personality and you have 2 podcasts. After your time on The Bachelor was over and as a Bachelorette, why did you decide to go and take the podcast medium and have, the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast and your other one? And do you take anything that you learned from law school, and have you been able to, or like practicing law, and apply it to being such a big media personality?
Absolutely. Okay, I'm trying to think of where to start with the question.
I know, I asked you like 5 questions in one.
Okay, so kind of piggybacking on what Nastia was saying is that you kind of have to reinvent yourself when the world has known you as one way for so long, and you don't want them to forget how they first met you, but you also want to build onto that. And so I found myself trying to reinvent myself from being the Bachelorette, the first Black Bachelorette. I feel like I have so much more to offer from that. And to answer your question about podcasting, I find podcasting to be the most freeing thing ever. On television, you have 3 to 4 minutes where you have to say what you need to say, and it's dictated for you, and you're like put in a little box. In podcasting, I can be as free as I want to. And that's why I love that I have 2 podcasts, one Bachelor Happy Hour where I cover all things Bachelor, the latest and the greatest, and then with Higher Learning, with Van, we cover current affairs, politics, sports, and entertainment. And it's so great because I'm passionate about so many other things, and I'm able to express that through podcasting. No time limit. Nobody's monitoring what I say.
No script.
no script at all. And it's really something that I love everything that I do, but I would probably say that podcasting, I feel the most myself. And it was when I was, to answer your question about being an attorney, and do I use those skills every single day? I miss the courtroom. I miss litigating.
Can we have a showroom? Can we have a show or a reality TV show where you are people have whatever problem they have, you're their lawyer? Can we do that?
Listen, you put it out there, maybe it will happen. I miss being able to, be in a courtroom and talk to a jury and, argue motions in front of a judge and have depositions. And so I feel like any chance that I have an opportunity to do that, whether I'm interviewing someone, so those skills come out when I'm on Extra and I'm interviewing and I'm trying to bring things out of people, and same with podcasting. So I do use those skills and that logical reasoning every single day. And
okay, in the court with Lindsay, we're going to be on the lookout for it.
May not like me. You may not like me in the courtroom.
Chris, you have worked with so many fabulous women, everyone from the Kardashians, Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, Jennifer Lopez. But one of the first fabulous women you worked on was your mother, which I love. Where do you find your inspiration for your clients when they sit in your chair? Do you just know exactly what you're going to do to them, or do you kind of have to study them first?
No, I think there's so many things that make a difference to making a style or a look come together. And a lot of it is about energy and what's going on. Everything affects it, even what's going on in society, or, what the event is, and everything kind of reflects into how that end look will be. But it's always definitely a collaborative process. Obviously, the people I work with know themselves. They know, I think they've tried and tested a lot. Throughout the years, they know what kind of works, what doesn't work. But at the same time, I guess, as Rachel mentioned about reinventing yourself, I think it's important to keep reinventing yourself and showing different sides to yourself. So I think that's kind of where I come in hand, and, you know, I'll suggest ideas and we collaborate and kind of, you know, knowing, you know, there's not technical, it's not about just trying new stuff, because sometimes, you know, it's a risky business when you're trying something new and you're going on a red carpet in front of the whole of the world and they're all of a sudden have an opinion on it. So I think it's definitely, there's a lot that goes into making sure that end look works. But I think what it really comes down to is just two people coming together. It's about the energy and it's about trust. Trust comes into it a lot.
Amazing. And I really want to know, so a lot of stylists, or they get into the industry and they have an opportunity to work with a big celebrity, but they have a hard time keeping those clients and turning them into forever clients. How did you know, you work with so many great people, and you were, you know, originally you're from the UK, you came to the States. How did you know, you had these opportunities to work with these huge people, but you kept them as forever clients? How did you do so? And what advice do you have for other stylists as well to turn those one-time clients into forever clients?
Yeah, it's interesting. Someone said that to me once, and I never really thought about kind of keeping a client as such. I think coming from a small town in Leicester in northern England, I always had the ambition and the dream I've always wanted to make people look and feel great. That's where it started with my mom. I used to do my mom's hair because I realized when she stood up and looked in the mirror, her shoulders would go back and she would have a different expression on her face. And I realized then at a young age, the power of kind of emotional medicine and being able to make someone look and feel good. It kind of changes everything. That kind of along the journey led me to Hollywood, but I started doing this when I was 13, and I think I tried and tested every aspect of hair. I put myself through the rounds, you know, from Fashion Week to editorial to covers of magazines to being in a salon. Every kind of aspect of hair I tried to learn. I think when I came to Hollywood, I think you say forever clients. I don't know if anything's forever, but I think I just have this genuine process of wanting to make people look and feel their absolute best. And it's no different to what I used to do to my mum when I was kind of like 9 years old. I would like proudly wanted to stand in the mirror and like see her hair and see how she'd respond. And I think that's still the same thing I have now. Like, I want them to not only look great, but when someone feels great, that's when the magic happens. Because I could do something and everyone in the room could say how amazing it looked. If that person doesn't feel good about it, it just reflects in their body language and their facial expression. And if they're on a red carpet and someone doesn't feel great, that it shows. Or if something's like painful, say if there's a ponytail that was too tight, you can see it in their eyes and in their face. So I think what makes it work is, I guess, the genuine want and passion for someone to look and feel their absolute best. I don't think that ever goes out of fashion.
It's true. And I love what you say, like nothing's forever, but having that authentic passion and that really you're coming from an authentic place, that will give you clients left and right. So that's great advice. Michael.
Question yourself every time. Like, I never, even now, like every red carpet, I'm still the same as I was when I was like 13 years old. I'm like, what could be better? What could be strong? You know, what did I not do as well? I'm never complacent. I think as soon as you become complacent is when it doesn't happen anymore. I think when you stop pushing yourself, I think that's the key to success. Keep pushing yourself, keep asking what's next, and keep trying to improve, you know. That's
perfect advice. Amazing. Michael, you are in the fragrance industry. I'm very excited for Better Old Fragrances to launch. And the fragrance industry really hasn't had a lot of innovation, I would say, in the last 100 years, as far as, you know, the style, the kind, everything. It's like kind of fits. We've seen it, we've heard it, we've smelt it, we've sprayed it, and it's kind of the same thing, just different bottle, different branding, different scents. So how are you taking a unique and fresh approach to this industry?
Well, when Drake came to us, he did ask for newness. He asked for uniqueness. He asked for us to take, you know, fragrances to a different level. And here at Givaudan, we have a science and technology department in Dubendorf, Switzerland, and we develop new molecules. And one of the strategies that we have and what we use of late is we have this apparatus called trail air, And what that apparatus does is it helps us to study the duration of time and length of a material, of an ingredient, as it exists within the air. So when we consider, let's say, candle technology, fragrance technology for candles, we're able to situate a fragrance molecule in the air for a long duration of time. Now, Drake will be releasing a fragrance called Carby, and the way how that fragrance was created, it didn't go with the top, middle, and dry down pyramid of how most fragrances are created. It was created actually using the trail layer technology to see how long we can suspend an ingredient within the air. So the French word for trail is sillage. It's as if, think of it as you walk past a certain individual, and that individual's scent is trailing with them, and it makes you just turn and snap your head back and say, wow, that's amazing, what is that? So building a fragrance within this capacity, and you're going to see that we use a little bit of Carby musk and all of the Better World fragrances. We're able to suspend a fragrance in the air, and it will smell completely different than any fragrance that's on the market right now, because it's not built off of any existing fragrance. Many of the times our clients come to us, and what you never want is, you never want your fragrance to bomb when it's on the market. So many times there's 4 female fragrance categories, 3 male fragrance categories. So major categories, I would say. So like for a female, they may be fresh, a floral, an oriental, or a chypre. Those are the 4 categories. So I could understand why you would say that over the last 100 years, the fragrances are not really changing. They all start to smell alike. Many times our client will come to us and say they want a twist of this or a twist of that, and then put, their own signature on top of it. So find maybe the fragrance industry hasn't moved that far of late. But what we have with our new technology protocol, we have the capability to create fragrances and to have fragrances perform in a different way, let's say, as seen before.
So will it smell different on the skin versus in the air? Oh,
very much so, because candle technology is such that you're using a flame, a heat to melt a molecule within a fragrance delivery system, which is the wax, as the fragrance projects from the wax. Now, the delivery system of a fragrance, when it's on the skin, is much different. Your body has its own body temperature, so the fragrance will emit differently off the skin as it would off the air. And the unique thing about the Carby musk fragrance is it smells different on everyone who wears it. So the fragrance in of itself it's in the eye of the beholder. Now, as you would wear the fragrance, as Chris would wear the fragrance, or any of the parties, Rachel, and any of us, the way how it smells for you, why it's on you, will project differently to someone who smells it on you. So, you ask, well, do we all smell alike? Well, we don't all smell alike, but do we all smell alike? If I smell a lemon, how does a lemon smell to me? It might smell very different to you. So the Carby musk fragrance and the other fragrance within the Better World fragrance protocol will deliver a different fragrance profile on each person who wears it, and even each person who smells it as they smell the candles.
Amazing. And how did you and Drake come together? Did he approach you, and you were just like the go-to guy in the fragrance world?
Drake loves fragrances. If you know Drake, he has fragrances burning. He has candles burning in his dressing room before a show. He has candles burning in his studio. Myself, I love music. I've known to blast the music all the way through the hallways as I create. Could be annoying to some people, but other people like it. So it was only suiting that when Drake approached Givaudan, that we sat down together. Drake invited us out to Toronto, and myself and Drake and our team sat down together. And then we started to talk about fragrance accords, which are the building block of fragrances, and music chords. And we saw a sense of similarity within the tones and the structure of how we build a song, or how you build a fragrance composition. So there's this mutual relationship that we had, and a lot of coincidences. One of Drake's first fragrances that he ever wore coincidentally I created. So
Oh, wow. It was
we
fate.
had, yeah, we had a connection from the beginning. Great.
Yeah, amazing. Rachel, I love, first off, you, like you said, podcasting has been such a great medium for you to say whatever you want and not have like a script or a time limit, and to really share your passions, things you care about. And one of the things you've been really vocal about, which I so appreciate, is the Bachelor franchise creating more diversity for the long term and not just as a trend. Why is it so important, not just for the Bachelor franchise, for all brands right now, individuals, companies, to really embrace diversity as a core pillar rather than just a trend in their business?
Yeah, I'm going to steal something from Nicole Byer. She says that she doesn't like the word diversity. She likes the word inclusion, because that's what it's really about. It's about making people feel included. And if you have a product or you're a company, organization, whatever it may be, and everyone looks the same, then but the world doesn't look the same.
Right.
How do you bring people in? How do you draw people in and make them feel included in whatever it is that you're putting out into the world? And with everything that was happening in 2020, for me, I started looking at what am I aligned with that isn't on the right side of history. And for me, that was the franchise. And so that's why I was so vocal about that. And it brought me back to why I originally said yes to being the Bachelorette, which was I wanted to see more people who look like me. I wanted young girls coming up saying, I could do that too, and I could have those exact same things. So many of my friends didn't watch the show because they didn't feel like it was representative of who they are. And I think that goes towards organizations and products as well. If you don't feel like it represents who you are, then why would you buy into that? I think we're living in a day and age where we need to include people, make them feel appreciated, heard, wanted. And that is why I was so vocal about the franchise. And I feel like it inspired. I would get people coming up to me saying, oh, you made me reflect on what it is that I'm aligned with as well, and if there needs to be some type of change. And I just think it's so important now where people are like, you know what, enough is enough. And they're unapologetically speaking out against things that they want to see changed. And I think it's beautiful. It might be one of the most beautiful things to come out of 2020 because it's a short list at this point, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And I love that you use that word inclusion because, you know, it's not just about race or color. You have different shapes and sizes, different, you know, sexual orientations, different religions. It's not just one thing. And I think we have a long way to go, but just having those conversations and, you know, making feel everyone included is so important. Yeah. Chris, I have to say, so I was doing some research and I found out you're also a model, of course. You have great cheekbones. How did you pivot, or how did that happen? Were you just, when you came to Hollywood, they're like, you're a model now too?
Pretty much. No, I don't know how it happened. I mean, it was just a process of, I think as you understand yourself as a brand, I think one of the key things to me was like, okay, I'm coming to Hollywood. What's going to make me different from any other hairdresser? Or what's going to make me different from, you know, the next person that'll get the job? And I think, you know, a lot of it goes back to the being genuine and genuinely, you know, wanting the best for that person, but it's also about the way you hold yourself and, you know, what you represent. If I walked in with bad hair or, you know, a bad kind of, I don't know, body odor or, you know, that all that kind of makes a difference, and first impressions make a big difference. And I guess people kind of used to just comment on, oh, you know, that guy, the tall, dark-haired at the time. And then I think it just kind of got picked up into me. I noticed if I, you know, kind of put a picture up of myself, people were equally interested in me as a brand as well. Like you said, like, how did you get to Hollywood from Leicester? How do you work with these people? How do you, you know, do what you do? And so I think just me evolving as a brand became, you know, going into the modeling side. And then IMG approached me and said they wanted to sign me. And I think with Instagram and with the social media world now, I think it's just a different, I don't think it's about, being a model isn't just about like having a nice face or a nice body. I think it's more about what you represent and the voice you can have and what you're speaking about. And I think that's more about modeling now, less of, just being a pretty face. It's more of what you are as a brand and how that, reflects. And inclusion of, of that, I think, was really important. It had to evolve from just being a pretty face.
Absolutely. Speaking of the art of the pivot and like continuously pivoting and adding to your career, Nastia, a lot of women right now, especially a lot of men, everyone, they're kind of, it's 2020. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are evaluating whether they align with what they're doing currently or they want to go into another space. What advice do you have for people that are trying to pivot, and have you had to pivot yourself, and what are some best tips that you can give when pivoting?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, I knew being a gymnast wasn't something that I could do forever. It's a very short-lived sport, especially as a girl gymnast. You peak when you're 16. I was 18 when I won the Olympics, and I was quote unquote old. But I think like the biggest lesson that I learned was actually 4 years after I won. I tried to make my second Olympic team, and at the Olympic trials, I was now coming in as the reigning Olympic champion. So I had a lot more pressure and expectations on me this time around. And on my very best event, the uneven bars, I fell flat on my face. And I remember laying there on that mat, like first just thinking like, what just happened? And then just being so embarrassed, so mortified. I just wanted to disappear. There was 20,000 people in the arena, millions watching. I had just disappointed so many people, or, so I thought. And then I quickly remembered my parents always told me, like, no matter what you do, you always have to finish what you've started. So knowing that the rest of this routine wasn't going to get me anywhere, it wasn't going to help me make my second Olympic team, I knew that dream was kind of over in that moment. I just knew that I also didn't want to end my career with a fall flat on my face. So I got back up, I finished my routine, landed on my feet on my dismount. And for the very first time in my entire life and career, I had a standing ovation for the worst routine of my entire life and career. And I remember being so confused because I stood there and I looked around and one by one, and all of a sudden 20,000 people were on their feet. And I thought that somebody else had just gone on another event and had like the best balance beam routine of their life. And they were well on their way to making the Olympics, and nobody else was going. It was just me. And that's when everything kind of clicked for me. It was up until that moment, I always thought that, people were only going to love or support me if I won the gold medal, if I was the best. And that's when I truly realized, like, we will never be defined by a gold medal, a placement, a salary, a job title, a relationship, any of those things. It's truly so important to find something that you love to do and something that you're passionate about. And so, during those moments, we're all going to have ups and downs, and we're either going to literally fall on our faces or figuratively. And it's about how to pick yourself and keep going. So that truly was kind of like that first pivot, I guess, if you will, in my life, where all of a sudden I knew that my gymnastics career was over. And as scary as it might have been, having that moment that I had helped me with that pivot, because it made me realize, like, yes, you might not be an Olympic gymnast anymore, but you still have that with you for the rest of your life. And it's so important to try to figure out what are your passions now. But it's also okay to like not know, I think like sometimes we get, or at least I always was like, when I moved to New York and I went to NYU, I remember like for a few years, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I am. The only person I ever knew me as was Nastia Liukin, the Olympic gymnast. Like I didn't even know who I was just as a person. So the pivot that I had at NYU and just living in New York at the time was just the best thing I could have done for myself, and just trying to, as Rachel said, you have to reinvent yourself, and it's not necessarily easy. It's not necessarily fun. But I think like that's what it takes to, then be successful in that next chapter of your life.
I love that. And I think speaking with all of you, one of the biggest takeaways is that you all have, it hasn't been an easy road, even though social media or the media can make it seem like everyone's life is perfect and glamorous. Behind the scenes, it's there's ups and downs on a daily basis. And I think one of the keys to success is knowing how to pivot, knowing how to leverage your failures, and knowing how to learn from them and apply it to the next thing you do. So before we close out this panel, I would love for everyone to share what one kind of a piece of advice to everyone that's listening on what the key to success to keep going, what to you is the key to success in terms of leveraging those failures, pivoting. And feel free to share like a story that really has stuck with you throughout your career. Rachel, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say it's, for me, before I became the Bachelorette, I felt like I was plateauing and I was doing everything I said I was going to do. I'd come out of a really bad relationship and I felt like I just wasn't my full self and I wasn't happy. And going to do the Bachelor and then the Bachelorette was me taking a risk, and it changed my entire life. And it was a risk that I took in love and also in life. And if I was going to give advice to anyone, I feel like sometimes in life we get stuck. You know, Chris, you mentioned being complacent, and it happens too often to us. I even find it, as much as I do now, getting complacent in the things that I'm doing sometimes. And so I think that if you take risk, you will always be rewarded for it at the end of the day. Even if you fail at that risk, you'll learn something from it. You can build on it and be better for it in the next risk that you take. And I think that if you're always stuck in a place of what if I did this, and wondering what could be, you'll always stay in that place. And so I just use my own life as an example and I check myself. You know, it's Monday, 3:00. What would I be doing if I never said yes to going to that audition? I'd probably be staring out the window, wondering what's on the other side of the rainbow, you know, just like bored or feeling complacent in my office. So my advice to you is to take risks, take a chance, because you never know what's on the other side of it.
That's beautiful. And Michael, how about yourself?
Well, the best advice that I would give to everyone, sometimes humility and resilience would be a way to go, where you draw energy from your failures and you use that energy to drive yourself, and just as importantly, to drive your team. I think part of leadership that sometimes we lack is the ownership of when we do not succeed, and how to bring the team back to where you encompass yourself within your network of people and say, how can we do better? To have the courage to go out to seek inspiration from others, to partner with others who can bring you to a point where you're doing something. To your point, in the fragrance industry, you may, you see redundancy, you may experience that, and you may fail because of the redundancy. And sometimes you look for opportunities that other people have not entered, and you have to have the courage to do that. One of the things that we do in the fragrance business, we look at what's trending on the market. We go down to New Orleans. They have something down there called Tales of the Cocktail. And we talk to some of the greatest bartenders and mixologists and try to seek inspiration from them and what they're doing, what they're mixing together, what they're putting together. We work with our flavors, Givaudan flavors, to see what they're doing. But you need to have the courage of the conviction to go to your client and say, hey, this is new. When Drake came to us and said, okay, what do you guys have for me? There was, first, there's a little bit of a reluctance. This guy's a megastar. What should we show him? Suppose he doesn't like it. Suppose he just throws it out into the streets of Toronto laughing, and then and only his followers find out that what comes with what we do. You have to have the courage to say, what, we will show him this, and hopefully he will love it. Partner with us to develop it better. Use his expertise. Use his knowledge. Accept. Everything that everyone tells you, good and bad, balance and move on.
That's great. And that's, using that balance of good and bad. Feedback is also a great way to move forward with innovation, just as you were explaining as well. Chris, how about yourself? What advice do you have for everyone?
I think for me, it's don't be afraid to fall on your face, because I think anyone that has had any sort of success, anyone I've ever worked with, have all fell flat on their face, hard. And I think the important thing is to feel it and be in that moment, and then get up and do something about it and change, what you didn't like or how you fell, and make sure you don't fall again, so you know your steps. I think it's really important to feel and learn from your mistakes to be able to evolve into the next platform and the next kind of level. I've done it plenty of times. I've done some, like this year we did the Super Bowl with Yola, and everyone really loved the hair. Like everyone was like, and you had such a great, I was so surprised. I just thought you looked nice, but everyone was like, oh, her hair was so sick. And I remember being like, wow, this is the Super Bowl. But not every red carpet or not every event has gone well. I've done some, in the beginning, and I remember I couldn't get out of bed the next day. I was like, I can't do this. I'm really bad at what I do. I can't do it. Like, I can't put myself out there. But you know what? I felt sorry for myself for a bit, but then I was like, what didn't work? And I went back to it, and I improved on what I didn't like. I was my own critique, if you like. So I think it's just really important that you get up and start again. And I think my other piece of advice, which I think takes you really far, is to always be really grateful for what you do have in your life. If I ever have a down day, if I ever have a day now where I don't feel great, I'll look up at the sky, I see the sunshine, and I'm like, I live in Hollywood. This was my dream as like a 13-year-old kid. And you know what? Don't always take it so seriously. Be grateful for the things and the people around you. I think that goes a long, long way.
Yeah. Gratitude adds like a whole nother dimension to everything you do.
But sometimes it's so easy to not see it, so just to take a second to actually see what you have around.
And even in 2020, I mean, like Rachel, yes. Even though there's a lot of pain in the world, there's so many things to be grateful for. And there are a lot of beautiful things coming out of 2020 that we might not see right now, but I think we'll see in the years coming. So Nastia, I know you just gave great advice about pivoting. Any other advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, kind of just like short and sweet, but something my mom taught me when I was a little girl. There were days that I came home from training after, not being able to make a skill on the beam or just being frustrated or having an injury. And I would tell her that I wanted to quit and I didn't want to do gymnastics anymore. And she would say, that's totally fine. You can quit, but not today. And she'd make me go back to the gym the next day and the next day and the next day until I had just one good day. And because our parents and moms especially know us best, I would come home after a good day and she would say, okay, great. Now you can quit. We'll enroll you back into public school, find another activity that you want to do. And I would always say, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said I wanted to quit. And basically, I guess the advice and the moral of that story is that you can never quit or give up on a bad day. We're all going to have bad days in our lives, whether no matter what industry, no matter what our jobs are, like there are going to be those days where, Chris, as you mentioned, like you don't even want to get out of bed if you feel like you didn't do your best or whatever moment you're going through. Not giving up and on that most difficult day is so important, because backtrack to why you even started, right? You started doing what you do because you had a passion for it. And so at the end of the day, we never really want to give up or quit on good days when we're doing stuff that we love and that we have a passion for. So that saved me a few times for sure. And it's also just, I'm able to carry that on into so many different areas and aspects of my life. It's not just, being an athlete and wanting to quit a sport. It really, a job, a relationship, the hard times and anything that you're going through. So just remembering to never quit on a bad day.
Yeah, I love that. And knowing your why and aligning everything with your why will get you to the end of where you want to be. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Chris, Nastia, Michael, Rachel, for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Don't Stop Believing, My Career Journey panel. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.